This episode of the Ortho Show is brought to you by Veradigm. Some healthcare technology companies deliver clinical data for biopharma and health plans. Some help turn that data into insights. Others serve healthcare providers directly by providing point-of-care clinical software. Only Veradigm does it all. That unique combination added to our nationwide scale is why so many leading healthcare companies choose to be a part of the Veradigm network, working together with Veradigm to transform healthcare insightfully. Whether you're a healthcare provider, patient, biopharma company, or payer, check out www.veradigm.com. That's www.veradigm.com to learn how Veradigm can help you too. So this week's episode of the Ortho Show podcast is truly an American story. We bring on Mike Eruzione, who is a legend, the captain of the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team that defeated the Soviet Union and then Finland for the gold medal. What I find amazing about Mike, he's just such an inspiration, tremendous motivational speaker. You're at the edge of your seat the entire time you talk to him. I could talk to him for days. This is an amazing episode. He shares the entire story about how the team got there, how Herb Brooks, as the coach, pulled them through to get the gold medal and increased an amazing spirit to the United States, which needed at the time. We then talk about his orthopedic conditions, as well as his charity and his golf tournament and his foundation. It's a truly remarkable episode. I know you're going to love it. Hashtag follow the fro.
From Medical Media, this is The Ortho Show.
Hello, world. Dr. Scott Sigman, your favorite opioid-sparing orthopedic surgeon, here for another episode of the Ortho Show podcast, where everyone knows we bring you the best of the best in the orthopedic world. We're taking a little bit of a pivot. It's still a little bit of an orthopedic story, but truly what it is, a story of an American sports hero, iconic leader from everybody that knows him, Mike Eruzione, who's the favorite son of Winthrop, Massachusetts, captain of the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team that beat the Soviet Union. His goal, I can vividly remember seeing it, was labeled by Sports Illustrated the greatest sports moment of the 20th century. Mike Eruzione, you're my friend. Hello, great to see you.
Hey, Scott, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic.
Nice
Awesome.
to talk and see you.
We're so thrilled to have you on. I mean, we get some boring orthopedic surgeons, man. We need some fun sports type stuff to be able to talk about. So let's go. So let's talk about it. So you grow up in Winthrop, right? You're an Italian-American family, Prince Spaghetti nights every Wednesday night. But, you're growing up and you're like thinking of your heroes. And I think of like sports back in the late 60s and 70s. The Red Sox were terrible, right? Nobody really cared about them. The Patriots barely had even started. You're a 5'9" Italian kid from Winthrop. You're not going to the NBA. You love the Celtics, but you could play hockey and you could aspire to be a Boston Bruin. And that must have given you a love of hockey.
Well, Scott, it's interesting. I did love playing hockey, but I played more baseball in my life than anything. And I played football. I played 3 sports in high school, and I was actually all state in all 3 sports. I loved just being an athlete. And it just turned out that hockey was a sport that kind of I funneled into. But growing up, like I said, I was a baseball guy. I mean, I played in Fenway Park in an all-star game when I was 16 and thought, boy, I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player. And then I started to see the curveball and different pitches and went, geez, I don't think I'm going to be a Major League Baseball player. So I just had a passion to play sports. And, hockey was something, you did in the wintertime. Winthrop's a small community. The high school is very small. And we really rely on 3-sport athletes. So it was something that was kind of figuring that's what you did. You went to Winthrop High, you played 3 sports.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because, I grew up in Baltimore and we don't even know how to spell hockey. I mean, it just didn't exist in the 60s and 70s, when I was sort of growing up. But hockey was such a natural thing here in Massachusetts. All the kids played it, the ice outside, the pond hockey, was just sort of part of the culture. And the Bruins were fantastic in those days, as well as they still are now. So you could be, you could really aspire to that. So Winthrop High, you play all 3 sports. You're a star athlete. And then, now wait, you did a PG year, if I'm not mistaken, right? You didn't go right to BU.
Right.
What was that all about? Give us that.
Well, yeah, I went to Berwick Academy. I graduated high school. I probably weighed about 155 pounds at tops, so I wasn't a very big kid. And because I relied on sports so much, I wasn't the greatest student in the world. So I needed a year of prep school, and I wasn't recruited by any colleges at all. A couple of schools talked to me about being, playing baseball, but nobody was really knocking on the door for hockey other than Merrimack College, which was at that time a Division II school. They weren't Division I. So I went to Berwick Academy with the hope of going to the University of New Hampshire. I wanted to go to UNH. I wanted to play football, hockey, and baseball. And when the smoke cleared, the hockey coach didn't think I was a Division I player. So I really had no school to go to. And I put all my eggs in one basket thinking, UNH, the football coach likes me, the baseball coach likes me. So I had no school to go to, and then relied on Merrimack. And I accepted a scholarship to go to Merrimack College. And in the summertime, I didn't skate in the summer. I played baseball in the summer. And I think it was about July, I got a phone call from a friend of mine. And he said, Mike, we have a summer league game up in Billerica. And a bunch of the guys went to the Cape for the weekend. Do you want to play? And I went, you need a player to play. I'll play. So I ended up going to the game and playing in the game. And it turns out the guy refereeing the game was a guy named Jack Parker. Now, Jack Parker at the time was the assistant coach at Boston University, and I didn't know who Jack Parker was. I didn't know who the referee was. And when the game was over, he came up to me and he said, Mike, my name's Jack Parker. I'm assistant coach at Boston University. He said, I remember you from high school. Where'd you go to school last year? I said, I went to Berwick Academy. He goes, oh, you played under Pop Whalen. Now, Pop Whalen was a Boston University legend back in, I guess, even the first Beanpot Pop played in. And he said, well, look, we got a kid from Canada that decided not to come to Boston University, and we have an open spot. Would you like to come to BU? And I went, yeah. I said, but it has to be a full scholarship because my dad can't afford $3,500. That was tuition my freshman year. Yeah. I said, no, it's a full scholarship. I said, but let me go home and talk to my dad, and I'll come to your office tomorrow. So I went home and talked to my dad, and Dad said, what are you going to do? I said, Dad, I can play there. And BU's coming off back-to-back national championships. So I said, I'm going to go to BU. So I called Tom Lawler, the coach at Merrimack, who actually played hockey at BU, and told him the situation, and he wished me luck. He says, that's a good opportunity for you. So I met with Jack Parker, and I went to BU. Well, Jack Parker's the assistant coach, but a guy named Leon Abbott's the head coach. And Leon Abbott didn't know me from Adam, but, was recruited by Jack. So, Jack was the recruiting guy. So I started out the season very early, not playing a ton. I was center in the fourth line. And just around Christmas, Jack Parker became the head coach. Leon Abbott got fired for some recruiting violations or whatever. I still don't know the whole story. So Jack Parker's the head coach. So I go from centering the fourth line to playing left wing on the second line, and actually led my team in goal scoring my freshman year. So, yeah. We talk about opportunities in life. And if I had never played in that summer game, I never would have gone to BU. And if I'd never gone to BU, I probably wouldn't have made, the Olympic team.
Yeah, no, that's a great story because it is so often in life, it's serendipity that you just happen to be, destiny. You happen to be in the right moment at the right place. I'm not sure if I've ever told you, but I'm the team doctor for UMass Lowell. I've been doing that for 25 years in Hockey East. So, I know the history and the lore of Jack Parker very well, who became one of the greatest hockey coaches in the history of NCAA hockey. So really amazing for you to have had that opportunity at the beginning of Jack's, career, and then be able to play for BU, which obviously was one of the greatest hockey programs ever when it comes to NCAA hockey. So, all right. So and they don't flunk you out. You made it through. You graduated.
Yeah, I graduated 4 years. I was a phys ed major. I wanted to be a coach and a teacher. That's my goal. It was, growing up around sports my whole life. The family I grew up in, my cousins, we were all athletic, and I wanted to be a phys ed teacher and a coach, and that was the goal. And
well, you got pretty good at hockey. I mean, you got the bug, right? And that's what happens when you get good at it. It becomes part of the culture, it becomes part of who you are. And now, you decide you're graduating. You got plans, but at the same time, you're still really good at hockey, and you're not willing to give that up. So you graduate BU. Then you're playing on Team USA for a little bit. You also play for Toledo as well in the IHL.
Right. Yeah. I graduated from BU. The New York Rangers had my rights, and again, Scott, this is how life takes another change and turn. So the New York Rangers had my rights. So I went to camp with the New York Rangers. Had a pretty good camp. Actually, Phil Esposito was still playing for the Rangers at the time, and Phil became a good buddy and kind of a mentor in some ways, especially never being to an NHL camp. So I go to camp with the Rangers and had a good camp. And John Ferguson's the general manager, and he calls me in with my, calls my agent up and says, "Look, Mike had a great camp, but we're not going to sign any new players. We have, Phil Esposito, we have Roger Gilbert, we had Ken Hodge. They had a lot of guys kind of winding down their careers, and so they said, we want to send Mike to Toledo, Ohio. It was part of the Rangers system, but we're not going to sign him to a pro contract." So I went to Toledo, and I was paid every 2 weeks. I think I made $3,500 my first year in Toledo. So
that covered your tuition at BU at the time.
Covered my drinking money. If anybody, if you played in the International Hockey League, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I'm winding, the year in Toledo, and actually I was the rookie of the year, and our team won the championship, and I was finished second in the team in scoring. So I thought, well, I'm going to sign with the Rangers. Well, as it turned out, John Ferguson, the general manager, got fired. Fred Sherrow, the former Philadelphia Flyer general manager, became general manager of the Rangers. And he told my agent that we're not signing any of Fergie's guys. Mike's free to do what he wants to do. Well, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? One of the assistant coaches for the Rangers who got fired as well was a guy named Mike Smith. And he was involved with the Colorado Avalanche. I think maybe the Rockies then, the Colorado Rockies. So I go to camp with the Colorado Rockies. And again, had a good camp. So they send me to Philadelphia, the Firebirds. That's their minor league team. So I'm down in Philadelphia. I'm playing. And all of a sudden, I find out I have a chance to try out for the 80 Olympic team. As long as I don't play 10 games in the minors. If I played 10 games, I would have been considered a pro. And in those years, you can't be a pro and play in the Olympic Games. So I go to camp. I leave the Flyers and I go back to Toledo and finish the year with Toledo, had the opportunity to try out for the Olympic team, and then made the Olympic team. So looking back, if John Ferguson never got fired, I probably would have signed with the Rangers. I don't know where my career would have gone in the NHL, but I would have had an opportunity and wouldn't have had an opportunity to play on the Olympic team. So by John Ferguson getting fired, I go back to Toledo, which opens the door for me to try out for the 80 Olympic team and make the team. And here we are 43 years later, you and I talking.
I mean, I love it. First and foremost, I love how you remember everybody's name, just like it was yesterday. I mean, really fantastic storytelling. And, I think, all right, so next, all right, so now, all right, so forget about the Disney movie and all that craziness, okay? Let's talk about Herb Brooks, right? Herb Brooks is the coach, right? He's tasked with taking these college kids, in their 20s to go to the Olympics. Obviously, the Eastern European, countries, when you're playing on their national team, you're basically a professional athlete, right? These are the best hockey players in their country, regardless of what their status is. They're like the best that it can possibly be. So nobody gives anybody a real hooting chance for the U.S. in 1980, although it is at Lake Placid, a U.S. Olympic, platform, which is fantastic. So you make the team, you're on the squad, and tell us about, because I think everybody, the Miracle on Ice thing, this really, I mean, yeah, it was amazing that you guys beat them, but this was truly hard work. It was not by accident that you guys were in a position to win that game. So tell us about the process of Herb Brooks and getting you guys ready for the Olympic Games.
Well, the process started with all of us going to Colorado Springs. 68 of us, I believe it was, maybe a little more, tried out against each other, competed over a 2-week period of time. They used to have a thing called the Olympic Festival, and they had all different sports, and hockey was part of the festival. So we go to Colorado Springs. We were divided into 4 different teams, and we played against each other over 2 weeks. And Herb Brooks sat in the stands and evaluated the players, although I'm not stupid. Clearly going in, I knew there were 10, 12 guys who were already on that team. I knew I was maybe a bubble player, but, if I played well at the festival, then maybe I'd have an opportunity. And I did. I played well. I led our team in scoring. Our team won the gold medal in the tournament, which was great, because, we were the at-large team that kind of just put us all together, players from different parts of the United States. I was voted captain of that team, and we won the gold medal, and I was one of 26 players. So, 26 players made up the 80 Olympic team, and we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what was going to happen. Remember, a meeting with Herb, the 26 of us said, look at guys, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be based out of Minneapolis. You guys can go home from Colorado Springs, come back. I think it was maybe September or October. He says, we're going to get together and then we're going to embark on a 6-month training and we're going to go to Europe for a month and, kind of outline what was going to take place. And then we all met in Minnesota. Actually, Ralph Cox, one of the last players cut in the team, was my roommate. Ralph was a Boston kid. So, open-eyed, wondering what the hell is going to happen. And in the first practice, we were on the ice and Herb outlaid, what was going to take place. 26 players, but only 20 were going to Lake Placid. 6 of us were going to get cut throughout the course of the training. And we understood it and we knew it. And it was like, okay, here we go. And he said, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to learn we're going to play a new style of hockey. Anybody that follows the European game and see the NHL now, you see it's very different. Crisscrossing, changing positions. It was something none of us had ever done. And he said, and we're going to train for 6 months, which is something the U.S. had never done before either. So he says, we're going to have a journey and it's going to be a struggle and it's going to be challenging, but here we go. And that's what started it. And we went over to Europe, trained for a month overseas, learned the new style of hockey, which was the European game. Anybody who knows the Olympic Games, the Olympic Games is played on a bigger sheet of ice. It's wider, it's longer. It's a totally different game. And it was funny because people said to Herb Brooks, you can't teach in 6 months what the Europeans have been doing their whole life. And typical Herb said, I can and we will. And it was fun. It was fun to change. Change is good. You can't be afraid to do things different. If you haven't been successful in the past, that was Herb's philosophy. You have to change. You have to be uncommon. He used to say, we're going to be uncommon because the common man goes nowhere. And it was fun. It was fun to do different things, change the way we played the game. Sorry.
No worries. So you're approaching, right? So you're getting there, you're working out it. And the point that I really like that you make here is that, it wasn't just a couple of guys that got together, a couple of weeks before the Olympics, and then we just won this game. It was a strategy. It was a plan. It was, pushing you guys to your limits and teaching new things. I love that process as you're getting close. And even as you were getting even closer to the Olympics, didn't you started playing some NHL teams or one of the national teams as well?
Yeah, we played 4 NHL teams very early. Just when we came back from Europe, 2 players got cut from the team. We were down to 24 guys, and we played the St. Louis Blues and got hammered by them. We played the Minnesota North Stars and we lost, I think, 4-2 to them. I think we tied the Washington Capitals 4-4, and I forget the fourth team that we played. And then we had a great series with the Canadian Olympic team. We played them 9 games. I think we won 6 and lost 3, or was it 5-4, somewhere in that range. And then the Soviets, they sent the B team over, one of their club teams. And we played them, I think, 5 or 6 times and beat them, every time we played them. And then we played a bunch of college teams, and then we played a ton of minor league teams. They put us in the Central League, which was, I think, Salt Lake City was in there, Des Moines, Tulsa, Dallas. And they said to the league, look, we're going to play them each team once, and it'll count on their schedule. So the game wasn't meaningless to these players. And we only lost 1 game against all those teams, and people thought these guys were going to kill us. And that was like the AAA of the NHL teams, all the minor league teams. And it was a battle because we got beat up a lot. I mean, they were, here come these young college kids. We'll show them how the game's played. And, we had a couple of bench clearing brawls. We had some battle tested games when I think it again challenged us physically as well as skill wise, because they couldn't skate with us. Our speed was incredible. So the way that they figured they could beat us was by just physically trying to beat us. And we learned some valuable lessons on that tour, but didn't lose many games, that's for sure. And Herb always told us, and he was a psychological lunatic sometimes, but he always said there's a method to my madness. And we're trying to figure out what that method was. And, when we won the gold medal at the end, you kind of sat back and looked and went, you know what? He was exactly right. There was a method to his madness. And, our assistant coach, Craig Patrick, said it best at the end. A reporter asked him about our team, and he said they got exactly what they deserved, which was to win the gold medal. But the training and leading up to it was a grind. It was hard. It was demanding. But you deal with it because I'm not quitting. You can yell at me all you want. I only got to deal with you for 2 hours.
Classic hockey coaches, right? But so let's fast forward to Lake Placid. Okay, you guys are rolling in at this point. You're getting off the bus. You're going into wherever you're going to live. Was there a sense amongst the team that that you guys really were going to do this, right? I mean, because no one in the international press even thought that you guys were on the horizon to be near near the podium. It was going to be classic Americans going up against these greats, and hopefully they'll win a couple games. But what was the sense in the locker room?
Well, going into the games, I'm going to backtrack just a minute, because the last game we played was in Madison Square Garden right before the Olympics against the Soviets, not the B team, the A team. And we lost 10-3, totally demolished, totally crushed. And we thought, Jesus, we thought we were a pretty good team. And here we go, the last game we play, we get a welcome to the world kind of a game. And the great thing about Herb as a coach was we never talked about that game again. It was as if it never existed. And we got on the bus and went to Lake Placid, hoping and dreaming like all Olympians do of, let's see what happens. Let's play the game. And I remember, we played, we got to the Olympic Village, and first of all, you're excited. You're checking out all the other athletes, who they are, where they're from. You go in, the video room, the game room, and, all the different venues in the Olympic Village. And it's exciting. And then you go into this room and they're going to give you the clothing that you're going to wear for the opening ceremonies, and other clothing, jeans, cowboy hats, sheepskin jacket, which I got to tell you, I think it might be up in my attic. I don't know if I've ever worn it.
Don't try it on. We don't want to know if it fits or not.
It's okay. The hat will fit.
Okay, good.
So maybe I think I sold that stuff. That's another story. So anyway, you go in and I remember there was a stack of Sports Illustrateds. And you go pick up the Sports Illustrated. It's got articles in there, about obviously other sports, but it's got the Olympic Games and all the predictions: speed skating, bobsled, luge, hockey. So you're reading about hockey, and the Soviets are going to win the gold medal. They're the best team in the world. Czechoslovakia has a chance because of the Stastny brothers, who are great players. And then it says Sweden, Finland, Canada, West Germany will fight for the bronze. United States anywhere from 7th to 10th place. And it said the U.S. team is too inexperienced, too young, and not talented enough. And, I looked at it. It reminded me of my high school football coach that told me that ability and a dime gets you a cup of coffee. How many times we've all been around people with great ability and talent and just don't get the job done. We had ability, and we clearly had talent. Experience, I could understand. It was the youngest Olympic team we'd ever put on the ice. Our average age, I think, was 22. Matter of fact, if any college fans are listening, hockey fans, we would probably be the youngest team in college hockey today. And I was 25, and Buzzy Schneider was 25. So that threw the number up a little. And, it reminded me of things my dad always told me about hard work and determination. And our team had intangibles. I've always said little things make good teams great teams, and little things, I think, make good business great business. And our intangibles were old-fashioned values. We had an incredible group of athletes who had incredible work ethic. And we played with heart, and we played with pride, and we played with commitment, and the little things that people couldn't measure. And clearly we were good. I mean, we had some pretty good players on this team, and evidently years later when they went on and played in the National Hockey League. So our mindset was, one game at a time. And we opened up against Sweden the day before the opening ceremonies. There weren't many people in the building because nobody really thought the hockey team was going to do anything. And even throughout the course of our year, nobody talked about the U.S. hockey team going in the Olympic Games and winning a medal, let alone winning the whole thing. And Billy Baker scored arguably the biggest goal of the Olympics with 28 seconds left to go. We tie Sweden 2-2, and we didn't play very well, but got a big point, a huge point going into to the next game, which was Czechoslovakia. And the only team that anybody thought could beat the Czechs beat the Soviets were the Czechs. And we blew them out of the building. We beat them 7-3. Now everybody starts to talk about the hockey team. And the great thing was we weren't allowed to talk to the media. So we didn't know what was being written. We didn't know what was being said. We were in a little village in a little cocoon in Lake Placid, New York. And new people in Lake Placid were excited, but no clue that the world and our country was watching the way they were. So it was great to be in that little village and that little cocoon, because we were just having fun playing. We were young. We were very immature. Even now, if you saw the emails we send back and forth to each other, you'd think we're 12 years old. But we were just embracing the situation, and Herb let us just keep having fun. And it was, again, on to the next game. on to the next game. And we kept winning, and we got to the medal round. And that was our goal. Herb said to us, let's get to the medal round. Once you get to the medal round, anything can happen. And we get to the medal round, and now we got 2 games to play. And one was the Soviets, and the second one happened to be would be Finland.
All right. So one of my favorite stories is, the night before the big game. And everybody has to remember the game for the Soviets was to get into the gold medal, game. So you still had to play another game if you did wind up, beating the Soviets, but it's the night before the big game. So you go back to your hotel room and you meditate and you're drinking some chamomile tea, but really not so much. So you meet up with your dad. So tell everybody the story about your dad the night before the big game.
Well, it's still a hockey game. And I, even now when I help out with our high school team, and we're in a state tournament right now, and I keep telling the kids, it's still a game. You can't make it bigger than it is, because then you'll get too caught up in the moment. So I was back at the Olympic Village and thinking, what am I going to do tonight? We had probably a curfew around 10 or 10:30, but not like you were going to go downtown Lake Placid, because you couldn't go anywhere in Lake Placid. People would swarm all over you. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the campsite with my dad and my high school football coach and my cousin, and my mom was going to come up and some friends, and just, we'll have a few beers and relax and, kind of hang out. So I had a state trooper. I said, can you do me a favor? I said, my parents are staying outside the Olympic Village in a trailer park area. Can you shoot me out there for, maybe an hour or so and spend some time? So he said, sure, Mike. So I got in the state trooper's car, and he drove me out to the campsite, and I sat in the trailer. They had a Winnebago, and, I had maybe, 4 or 5 beers, and my mom made a little food, and we sat around and drank and talked and said, it's going to be fun tomorrow. It'll be a great game. I hope, hopefully you guys are all set for tickets and all of that. And kind of hung back there. And I think I left there probably around 10:30, maybe 10:45. State trooper dropped me back to the village and the little trailer that we were living in. And I was living with Jim Craig and Phil Vercoda and Bill Baker. And I walked in, and the 3 of the guys were kind of lying in bed. And I said, hey, guys, what's happening? And they were kind of laughing a little. And I said, yeah, big one tomorrow. I said, I'll see you in the morning. And, went to bed and got up. We had a pregame skate. And I walk into the pregame skate, and there's my dad in the stands. And I'm thinking, what's he doing here? He shouldn't be here. And I looked up in the stands, and I said, Dad, you're not supposed to be here. He goes, no, the state trooper. And he pointed over to the state trooper. He said, he let me in. He was there with my high school football coach. And I said, Coach, I said, he's not supposed to be here. He goes, no, don't, So I went over to Herb Brooks. I said, Herb, I said, my dad's in the stands. He goes, no, that's okay. Herb really liked my father. And I said, he's sitting up there with my high school football coach, and he's got a 6-pack of beer. And 6-pack of beers in a brown bag. And my dad's just having a beer, watching me practice. And it was like a high school practice. To him, it was no big deal.
What beer was he drinking? I got to ask. I mean,
I got to believe it was Budweiser, knowing my father. So,
all right, there you go. Good. A little shout out for Beth Best. We're gonna get Budweiser, Beth. That's our next move.
So so it was just another game. And I didn't want to, change my routine or think it was too big of a moment. You still have to play the game, and you can't think anything differently. And that was kind of, my night before the Soviet game, and got ready, and I was excited and anxious and curious, like you always are before a big game, and got ready to play the game that day.
So you get out on the ice, you guys are playing. Give us a quick rundown on the tete-a-tete scoring as it goes to the moment when you have the opportunity to score the winning goal.
Well, we fell behind right away, and then Buzzy Schneider tied the game, and then they went ahead again. And then, in my opinion, Mark Johnson scored the next biggest goal of the Olympic Games with no time left on the clock. He scores with actually 0 seconds left. They had to see if he scored just before the clock expired. And we ended up tied after 1. And we didn't play very well. But, Jimmy kept us in there, and Mark's goal was huge. So, first period ends, and we're not getting beaten, and we knew we could play better. And then the game kind of just unfolded in front of us. We fell behind 3-2. And then Mark, whenever we needed a big goal, Magic scored a huge goal to make it 3-3 with just about 11 minutes left to go in the game. And we were starting to play a little better. The confidence was there. And then I scored with 10 minutes left to go in the game that gave us the lead. And it's funny in the movie Miracle, when I watched the movie, the last 10 minutes is like the Soviets had 100 shots on goal. But it was a few years ago that I saw the game. I've only seen the game twice. And I saw it a few years ago. And in the last 10 minutes, the Soviets only had 6 shots on goal. And we kind of controlled the last 10 minutes of the game. Although it was probably the longest 10 minutes of my life. You go out on the ice and look up and the clock said like 9:59. Then you'd go out again and it said like 9:52. Although the clock was moving, we couldn't imagine a wait for it to move fast enough. And then, the buzzer sounded and we won. And then, believe it or not, it was time to get ready for Finland. When the game ended, Herb never said congratulations, good game, way to go. The emotion in the locker room was incredible. The guys were crying. We were hugging each other. It was like just magical. And, we beat the Soviets and we get up Saturday morning for practice to get ready to play Finland. And Herb flipped out. We were in there signing pictures and and he just almost flipped the table open in the locker room and just woke us up a little bit. We got another game to play. And he made us very aware of the fact that we still had to play Finland. And that practice that Saturday might have been one of the hardest practices we had. I mean, he skated our asses off. And I'm like, why is he so pissed off? We beat the Soviets. But he did what he had to do as far as getting all that energy out of us, getting all that excitement out of us, getting us back down to earth to play a game that, people, I tell people all the time, and Scott, if we don't win this game, guess what? You and I aren't having this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the things I'm doing today. I'd be maybe coaching and teaching, who knows? But, we went out and played a pretty good hockey game and we beat Finland 4-2. And that made the Soviet game even that much greater. Because I can't imagine 43 years later, someone coming up to me and saying, geez, if he only could have beat Finland, if he only could have won the gold medal, what happened against Finland? So I think by us dominating that third period of the Finland game, scoring 3 goals, winning 4-2, just validated how good our team was.
It was a great moment for America because you have to remember back in 1980, I mean, Jimmy Carter's just coming off and Reagan's coming on board and, there wasn't a great mood at the time. The Cold War is raging at that time. I remember I was 15 years of age and I vividly remember Al Michaels as the clock is ticking off against the Soviets and, do you believe in miracles? And I mean, that's just, it's lore. It's just legend. It's become just part of our American culture. So what a great, great moment for you to have lifted America at the time.
Yeah. And we didn't know. And I think that made it even better, the naivety of our team and realizing that, we went there for 1 goal and 1 goal only. And that was to win. And when you can do it with a USA jersey on, there's no greater feeling, a greater pride. It's not like a Super Bowl or a World Series or a Stanley Cup. You put a USA jersey on, you represent your country. And I think other than, our military and what they do for us, that can be the greatest feeling you can have. And for us to do it in our own country and realizing later what it meant to a country. I said someone the other day, we could use a 1980 right now. Yeah. Not for us and our team. It's over. It's ended. But just to what that moment meant to a country, we cherish it and embrace it even to this day, 43 years later.
I mean, I could listen to you all day long, Mike Eruzione. You're an amazing motivational speaker. We've had an opportunity to work together on a number of projects, but it is an orthopedic show. So let's talk a little orthopedics just to keep our listeners entrenched in the conversation. So, let's talk about your knee arthritis because that's how you and I got to meet. You had pretty significant knee arthritis, trying to push off a knee replacement, and you went to the #1 orthopedic PA in the land, Jason Rand, for advice and counsel, and he recommended Zilretta, which is a long-acting corticosteroid that I use in clinical practice almost every day. So that had to have been a very powerful thing for you to keep moving when you were having arthritis, trying to push off that knee replacement.
Yeah, I was trying to delay it. I knew at some point I was going to have to get it done, but I think I'm trying to remember my age at the time, maybe 62, somewhere in that range. And I went and saw Jason, and he said, "Well, let's try this Zilretta. It's a cortisone shot. It's kind of time release kind of situation." He says, "Let's try it," and I got 6 months out of it. And then I went back and saw Jason again. I said, "Jason, I think I need another shot." I got another 6 months, and when the smoke cleared, I got almost probably 2 years And the big thing about it was not only did I get 2 years of avoiding replacement, I had 2 years of strengthening and keeping my quad strong. So eventually, when I realized it's time to get it done, and that was about maybe a little over 2 years, or right around 2 years, and I went in and got my knee replaced, and this is crazy. And again, you're the ortho guy, I'm not, but I'm wondering if the Zilretta helped me recover. I mean, I played golf 1 month. I had surgery October 12th at the New England Baptist, Dr. Brazil. And 4 weeks later, I was in Florida and I was on the golf course playing golf. I teed it up. And I remember going to Dr. Brazil. I said, I'm going to Florida in a month. I said, you think I might be able to play the golf? He looked at it. He said, I don't think you're going to be able to play, but your knee will tell you what you can do and can't do. So I went over to the driving range, and I was kind of chipping a little, and I putted a little, and then I hit an 8-iron, then I hit a 3-wood, and then I hit a driver, and I went, damn, I can play. And I went out and I played golf, and I had a striker knee, a triathlon knee, I found out, and I'm never going to be a triathlon athlete, but clearly, it worked for me. And like I said, 1 month later, I was playing golf, and here I am now, 2 years, I think, after the surgery, and I wouldn't even know that I had a knee replacement.
I love it.
I'm golfing. I'm skating with the high school team. I skate with my grandkids. I feel great, and a lot of it was because of that.
I love it. So let's go back to the Zilretta story a little bit, because the Zilretta makes you feel better, right? So then you can work out. Who's your favorite Peloton instructor?
I use them all, but I basically stay with the women. And I say that because I've been yelled at by coaches my whole life. And I don't want to be on my bike and have one of the men instructors start screaming at me to start pushing. So I stay with the ladies. And my goal, I usually do 30 minutes a day, but the goal is 9 miles. I want to make sure I do my 9 miles.
That's awesome.
Once in a while, I'll do 45 minutes. Once in a while, I'll do an hour if I'm watching a football game or something on TV. But I'm pretty regimented with that workout.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Peloton too. It's every morning for me. I try to get in the workout before surgery. And I'll tell you a funny story. I just DM'd Kendall Toole to say, hey, look, love your energy, love all the stuff that you're doing. Why don't you come on to the Ortho Show podcast? So if Kendall Toole's handlers or any of her producers or people around, we want her on the Ortho Show.
Yeah, so do I. I've done her workouts too.
All right. So we have the endorsement of Mike Eruzione and the Fro. We want Kendall Toole on the Ortho Show. So we'll work towards that goal. Now, it's interesting. Let's give a shout out to Stryker. It's interesting. There's a lot of new stuff that's coming out of knee replacements all the time, robots and patient-specific instrumentation. But, I use the Stryker Triathlon, for over a decade. Now I'm using the Johnson & Johnson PFC Sigma Total Knee. But what I found great about those two knee replacements in particular is they have been around forever. They have never been recalled. They are tried and true. And so there's a lot of newfangled stuff out there, people, but sometimes going old school, going with the cool product that's been around for a long time is the way to go. So kudos to Stryker as well as to Johnson & Johnson for great, total knee programs. So, all right. So we loved out Jason Rand. I'm sorry to my nurse practitioner, Kristen Proverb. You're the greatest orthopedic nurse practitioner, but Jason Rand's the best orthopedic PA. But now let's talk about your book, because you got this whole, what a great way to sort of be able to tell the story, right? As a motivational speaker, you're all over the place, but you did write your book, The Making of a Miracle. It came out, unfortunately, in the worst possible time in the setting of the beginning of the pandemic, but it became a bestseller quite quickly. And I'm sure you're really appreciative of all of the energy behind the book.
Yeah, it was kind of, I didn't want to write a book because then you got to go places and see people and sign books and go to book signings. And I like to kind of keep quiet and stay home, and other than when I'm traveling doing other stuff. But I wrote the book for one reason, along with Neil Bodette. Neil's a Michigan guy, BU guy. And I even told HarperCollins, who's the publisher, I don't care if anybody buys the book. And they went, no, you can't say that. I said, well, I know I want people to buy it, but I wrote it for one reason only. I want my grandkids to know that Papa's life wasn't one game, one goal, one moment. I wanted my grandkids to know what their great-grandfather and great-grandmother were all about. I want my grandkids to know about our family and how close our family is. I'm talking to you right now, 2 houses from the house I grew up in, and my son, his house is directly behind me. My daughter lives down the street. So family is very important to me, and I want my grandkids to know about that. So that was the basis of the book. And it did well, and I'm glad it did for HarperCollins' sake. There's not a lot of money in books, and that wasn't the intention. The intention was, like I said, for my grandkids to know a little bit more about, my life, and that, Papa didn't just show up one day and score one goal.
It's a truly inspirational story, and we're also happy that you actually did put pen to paper and do that. Writing a book is not an easy accomplishment, and so getting it done, kudos to you as well as Neil as well. So great story. So as we're getting ready to close, I think that your charity and your foundation is also super important to you. You have a golf tournament as well. Let's let the listeners know about that as a way to be able to help you out as well.
Well, I started a foundation years ago. I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and got $150,000. And I said to my wife, I said, well, the money's going to go to charity. Why don't we start a foundation? And it's called Winthrop Charities. And I raise money for, obviously, people in my community here. I've raised money over the years. I donated to a lot of different foundations and charities throughout the country. Been able to do that. It's fun to play Santa Claus. It's fun to give back. And again, that's a rule that my mom always told me is you always give back and help others. And to be able to have the foundation, to be able to raise money to give back, whether it's in my community or, like I said, around the country. I have a golf tournament every year, and I share that golf tournament with a Cool Kids campaign, which deals with kids with cancer. And Dan Jansen, the speed skater, has one in Charlotte. Ken Singletary, the baseball player, has one in Baltimore. I have one here in Boston. So I split it with Cool Kids campaign, and the money goes, half of it goes to them, half of it goes to my foundation. And I bring in some celebrities. Obviously Dan Jansen plays. A few of my teammates from the Olympics have played. Mario Lemieux has been a consistent supporter and played in the tournament. And we have a lot of local guys. And fortunately in Boston, there's a lot of professional athletes that give back and help out. Ray Bork, Gordy Kluzak, Barry Peterson. And I can go on and name the Bruins players that come and help me support my foundation. So it's fun to do it. I take great pride in knowing that we're able to raise a lot of money and give back to kids who can't afford to play sports, or families that need it. And, just like I said, whatever, we get a lot of letters and requests, and you try to help out as many as we can. And that's what I do with my foundation.
Well, we're so happy that we could share that with our listeners around the world. And, Mike, I could listen and talk to you for a couple hours, even more. I'd go all day long. I mean, you're just such an amazing, inspirational, motivational speaker. We can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be able to share what is truly a classic American story.
Well, Scott, thank you very much. And you know what? We have to give a shout out to Beth Best too, because she'll yell at us if we don't give a shout out to Beth, who helped put this together for me and you. So again, thank you for letting me have an opportunity to speak and kind of tell our story. And one of the great things about it is how many times people will come up to me and they'll say, I remember where I was when we won. And I look at them and go, I didn't know you were on the team. But yet they all feel a part of it. And thanks for letting me share my story.
What a great way to close. This is Dr. Scott Sigman, #FollowTheFro, host of The Ortho Show. Till next time.